Can we really draw a link between Nepal and Madagascar, Bangladesh and Peru, Indonesia and Morocco? Why the waves of defiance sweeping nations that are oceans apart? That defiance now bears a name, Gen Z protests. The generation born after 1997 has had its fill with corrupt elders who cling to power and their offsprings who flaunt their excesses on social media. Their two hashtags have bred Nepo baby, Nepo kids. The contempt of the ruling classes is as old as French queens quipping, "Let them eat cake." So what is it about the digital age that seems to rub it particularly hard in young people's faces, or in this case, young people's screens? Back in 2011, when the Arab Spring erupted, leaderless movements in Tunisia, Egypt, and elsewhere were sometimes branded as Facebook revolutions. What's changed now that young people have migrated to Instagram, TikTok, Discord? And what happens to leaderless movements? Just ask citizens of Madagascar, whose Gen Z protests have led to Tuesday's toppling of a president and, well, to a military coup. More broadly, how to meet the aspirations of a generation that has moved to the city from the country, paid its dues in underfunded schools, endured blackouts and poor hospitals, and had enough. Today in the France 24 debate, is it Gen Z's moment? With us from Madagascar's capital, activist Shelly Andriamiadze, who joins us now. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yasser El Aissaoui, Moroccan doctoral student at Sorbonne Paris Nord University. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sociologist Gökçe Tuncel, postdoctoral researcher at the University of Paris-Est Créteil in the eastern suburbs of Paris. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And Romain Ponceau, general manager of digital consultants Opinion Act. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
On the go, by the way, you can also listen to the show. That is wherever podcasts are streamed. There really are shades of Nepal when you look at the events that have transpired in the last 48 hours in Madagascar, where what started as a youth protest against corruption energized older generations, particularly after a deadly crackdown that left at least 22 dead. Tuesday, when soldiers turned on an unpopular term-limited president who tried to dissolve parliament and who had fled abroad, well, they took over. No matter if Colonel Michael Andréarine promised to hand back power to civilians in up to 2 years, he says. For now, Gen Zers, for their part, are celebrating.
It's hard to describe. It's like we've been sick for so many years and now we're told it's over. We're cured and it's indescribable. Immense joy.
I'm very happy, really very happy. As a young person living in Madagascar, we're free now. We've won.
Shelly Andriamiadze, you share that joy?
So, yeah, of course, we share that joy because it's coming from a very long way. It has been 15 days, more than 15 days of protest. So we are very happy with the president fleeing the country. But at the same time, it brings a lot of uncertainties and worries because the move from the army yesterday was, I would say, unexpected, but at the same time expected. They decided to seize the power without really consulting the Gen Z movement, without consulting the stakeholders. So it brings this uncertainty because in Africa, army seizing the power is rarely good news. Yeah.
Does it mean that the movement's over?
No, definitely the movement is not over because even though we ask for the resignation of the president, we also have to make sure that all the reforms and the demands from the protesters are implemented. And we have to make sure that through the transition, everyone that's going to be involved in this transition can ensure that all the demands from the protesters going to be implemented and that people will not be disappointed again from this uprising.
Okay, it was last Saturday when the military turned on the president, and that sort of turned the tide, if you will, Shelley. But just tell our viewers about when it started for you personally and for the protests that took place, not just in the capital where you are, but in many cities across Madagascar. What happened? What was the spark?
Yeah, so what happened in Nepal really played a key role for the manifestation in Madagascar, because for a very long time, young people here was hopeless, and they felt like there is nothing they can do to change the system. But after what happened in Nepal, they had hope, and they felt like their voice can be really meaningful and that they can change things. And from that moment, I knew that it's gonna be high time for Madagascar to also have their own Gen Z movement. I think everything began on September 15th, during the Democracy Day, when Transparency International had this initiative called Black Democracy. So it invited all the citizens who were Black on Democracy Day to protest against the restriction of the civic space here in Madagascar. And from that, so many little voices began to speak up. And then September 25th happened with all the youth asking like accountability and also reforms for the power cuts and water shortages that was up to 8 hours here in the capital. Yeah.
Yeah, power cuts, water shortages. Yasser El Aissaoui, in Morocco, we've seen protests. Just a couple of reactions listening to Shelley there. Every country is different, of course, and every context is different. But was there also this sort of inspiration coming from what just happened in Nepal as well in Morocco? Is that true?
I mean, that's the part that struck me the most when she mentioned influence from Nepal. I think in Morocco it's very different. I think the influence in Morocco from the first part is taking the name, is like creating a Discord server. That's the only influence I will say in Morocco. But
explain what a Discord server is.
The Discord servers is the creation of a sort of community that is only based in virtual social media platform. Initially, Discord was based, like a video game where people who play video games join and talk, play video games. But now it has become the place for revolution, place to create democratic conversation. But in Morocco, there are no coups. There are only peaceful protests. The first 2 days, the 27th and 28th of September, they were very peaceful. However, the authorities escalated the situation. So this was a very mismanagement from the authority of Morocco, taking it to a level that, the young people were not asking for. They were basically protesting peacefully.
Because you heard Shelley saying how in Madagascar, you have a history of coups, you have mismanagement over a long time. People from the outside looking in look at Morocco and they see, you have high-speed rail, that you're going to be hosting the World Cup. They see modern universities. They don't understand when they look at Morocco. I
mean, that's part of the criticism and the protests, is that Morocco has favored creating this image about Morocco, the aesthetics of this Morocco that they are trying to make it for foreigners, the image that this beautiful Morocco, that we don't have any problems or social problems. And on the other hand, we have this saying that it's El Maghreb, which is the other part, which basically means Morocco in Arabic. And so this is the real Morocco that people will say, where issues, societal issues, issues about education, about healthcare, which is basically that was what this was the parts that created all this protests, which was the issue of the death of 8 women in the hospital in Agadir due to cesarean. So this was the moment that people understood that there is something insidious about not taking care of the hospitals and just favoring, building stadiums in record timing, and forgetting all the people who were living in Huz during the earthquake natural disaster. It was they are forgetting them. They are not building homes for them. They are leaving them staying in tents during this the coming cold weather in the mountains. So it was the moment for action.
And no matter that Morocco's national team has now won 16 in a row.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the Lions of the Atlas. Ahead of hosting the African Nations Cup and the World Cup, citizens say spending on stadiums, as you just heard, can't hide the misery. Where protesters vowed not to stay quiet.
We see hospitals that could be labelled as hospitals for the dead, hospitals without basic facilities. That's why we're calling for the resignation of the Minister of Health and the entire government. We don't believe they have a solution because they caused this problem.
Gökçe Tuncel, let me ask you, because here we're talking not about overthrowing the monarch or any of this. We're talking about bread and butter issues, education, housing, access to clean water, which actually we don't talk about enough, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the common features of these movements, in Nepal, in Madagascar, also in Indonesia and in Morocco, is the non-difficult access to materialistic basic needs of the population, like power and water shortages. Also in Nepal, we saw that there's this uprising with the hashtag Nepo babies. So the people denouncing the fact that rich children expose their materialistic mode of life on social media. And I guess there is also this, youth precarity who cannot have as upward social mobility, and they think that they could have good jobs, good housing, with good diplomas, but now they are seeing that it's impossible, actually. So there's a lot of frustration and also anger about that, yeah.
This is nothing new. Youth precarity, youth unemployment, inequality, especially in the developing world. That's nothing new. Is the difference the fact that there's this new age of transparency where you can see what everyone else is doing?
Yeah, as my colleague told, things appeared on Discord, which is pretty common on all the movement. That's probably the first thing. They use the One Piece flag, this manga, and it became global as a religious flag, which is also impressive. And what is interesting from my perspective as a social media expert is this population are fighting against injustice, which is a strong sentiment, and the algorithm on the social media are pushing the strong sentiment and the engagement. So that's probably helped developing this global aspect of Gen Z movement.
So hold on, let me get this straight. The algorithm, it doesn't care about politics. So the algorithm just wants you to stay on.
At all.
But the algorithm just wants you to stay on their
Exactly.
social media, and so they say, oh, if this is what he likes, let's give him or her, let's give them more.
Yeah, exactly. They want to push what generates sentiment online. And of course, injustice is one of the strongest sentiment, and especially for Gen Z fighting for their rights. So that helped to become to make this movement become global. And on top of that, we have something that is really really interesting. Is becoming born on Discord, but it moved really fast to other social medias. So touching also other generation. And if you look at the Gen Z hashtag, not the Gen Z 212, for instance, but there's a
Gen Z 212, which is the one from Morocco.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Gen Z hashtag it generates more than 1 million mentions, actually. So the movement is becoming global.
So Shelley, let me ask you, because you said that people in Madagascar were inspired by Nepal. How did you first read or hear about Nepal, or your friends? Where did they get their news, if you will?
Yeah, of course, from TikTok, mainly from the videos of all people from Nepal sharing what we were doing. And of course, a lot of pages, local pages here, Facebook pages in Madagascar shared also a lot about what happened in Nepal. And I think it was at this moment that people was, oh, it's really the right time and the high time for Madagascar to have something like this. And then a few weeks later, we had that. And you're right. I think it's the culmination of years of mismanagement, corruption, injustice. It's not just like something like that happened a few months ago. It's really like 7 years of just tiring governments that culminated into this protest and this movement.
All right, so common hashtag, and as Romain Ponceau was just saying, a common symbol. One Piece. The first one was published in 1997, which is the year that Gen Z officially started. The first Generation Z babies were born. The Japanese manga comic whose Luffy, the pirate character, as said in a France 24 inquiry into all this, quote, embodies the figure of a defender of the oppressed for Gen Zers. That symbol's been everywhere. From Peru, we've seen it quite a lot there, to Morocco, and of course to Madagascar.
This logo means freedom for Generation Z, because we are poor.
Yasser Aissaoui, were you a fan of One Piece growing up, or are you still today?
No, I am. I'm still watching it. Yeah,
right.
I do.
You bought the mangas and...
No, I just watched the anime.
All right. Why is this the symbol?
I think in One Piece there is this sense of liberation, and so people feel currently they feel liberated. They are able to breathe through this movement, to voice their anger, and I think the symbolism shows this resilience that this generation, they are not going to back down. They will continue this protest as a sign of hope, as a sign of change. So I think that's where One Piece, plays a part.
Gökçe Tuncel?
Yeah, I guess, you're right. Luffy, the character Luffy does, in the anime, he does not obey kings, quote. And also he's about freedom, right? He's about against all kinds of hierarchy. He's not obeying, and he's not also do not trust politicians as such. So it's really a symbol of liberty and freedom against big ideologies. In a sense. And so for me, it is logical that it became a collective identity in these movements.
Collective identity, Romain Ponceau, or is Luffy the pirate in One Piece a symbol of one person's pluck?
No, I think it makes sense to say that it's their common identity. It's touching the entire generation, the Gen Z generation. And as soon as the symbol emerged in the conversation, it spread widely. So I do agree with all of you.
All right. They also mentioned here the resentment against the elites and against their children. Let's give you an example. Meet Kiko Barzaga, 27-year-old member of the Philippines House of Representatives, son of the mayor of city of Dasmariñas, who succeeded her late husband. You can see Kiko, his cat, his shiny red car. All this is on his TikTok account. That's where we found it. Gökçe Tuncel. Your thoughts on those who have it, flaunt it?
I guess the social media is in that sense is a really powerful tool because we have access a lot of images. We have access to the this kind of content of children of prime ministers or political elites. And I think that it creates moral shocks, as James Jasper will say it in social movement literature, and this kind of moral shocks and then diffuse across social media, building and canalizing the anger and the frustration against elites. Yeah.
How is that different, Yasser El-Aissa, with the Kardashians, who, they're influencers and they do reality TV shows and all of that, but they're famous also because the father had a lot of money.
Well, the idea of flaunting the wealth and presenting the way of life, the style of life, I think nowadays is a way to gain just more money, to capitalize on it. So it's, to me, I see it just a way to marketing.
But is there a difference between, again, Kiko in the Philippines and the Kardashians?
I'm not really much aware of Kiko in the Philippines. I don't know
Are there
if
Nepo babies in Morocco?
That's a good question. I don't think if there are, they are hidden. They are not very they are not very well known in social media, as in like the Kardashians or families like that. So I'm not sure.
Shelly Adramiadze, what about in Madagascar?
The presidential family, so the president's daughter and sons that grabs about their luxury life and their very luxury bags, in like living in a nice hotel, going to a very fancy school. So it was part of the movement and what ignited anger among Malagasy people, because the educational system in Madagascar is at its worst state, and just seeing the president's son in one of the fanciest school can ignite a lot of anger among youth.
Romain Ponceau, what conclusions have you drawn? You're a consultant. You're also sometimes a strategist, right?
Of course.
So, what's the conclusions you draw on this?
If I can reloop on all what you said. The main difference is the social ladder. I mean, the ability to climb the social ladder between Morocco, Nepal, Madagascar, and US.
So there is a difference, you're saying, between Ange Radzoel's children and the Kardashians?
Unfortunately, yes.
What's the difference?
The difference is mainly for the rest of the population, their ability to raise in the social ladder and to access this level of living. And it's clearly not the same in Madagascar and in US. So that's clearly my point. And what's interesting as well is that we see a reverse, because the Gen Z is born with the social media. They know how to manage it, how to use it. So if we don't talk about the entire influencer, but only about the population, and what we saw on the Gen Z movement is that they have a master in social medias, and they achieve to make this Gen Z hashtag and the local hashtag emerge very fast and to spread to other to the other communities within the countries.
But we see the Gen Z hashtag also misused, people using it to settle political scores, accusing those who they don't agree with of being Nepo babies.
Yes, we do see it, but what's the most important from our perspective is to see that it's becoming and it started with this strong will to make the thing change in these countries, and to develop this hashtag, to make it viral, to make the things happen in the real life. We had the digital natives, but now we talk about community natives. That's the Gen Z. They achieve to create a community, to gather around something.
Isn't that what was said about Facebook, though? When, back in 2011, they said, oh, this is great. We don't need leaders. It can be a leaderless movement, and you can have communities. That was, in fact, the word used by Facebook itself.
But if we talk about Facebook and for instance, the Arab Spring, it was completely different. Things started in the street and then have been amplified on Facebook. But the global population didn't have access to social media. It was really a generational thing. Now, everybody in the world is using social medias. And that's the main difference from my point of view from about this movement. It started with Gen Z, with their own code, with their own meme. We talked about One Piece, but it spread widely.
Spread widely. And let me put it to you, Gökçe Tuncel, because there was the Arab Spring, and then in 2013 in Istanbul, this protest over preserving a park, which turned into a giant movement at the time, perhaps the biggest challenge or one of the biggest ones to Recep Tayyip Erdogan's better than a quarter-century rule. Spoiler, he's still the president.
Yeah.
When you think back to how that movement was organized, how would it be different today, the Gezi Park movement?
Well, I guess what is different today is that the Gen Z or the young people, they are doing some applying pragmatic strategy, meaning that because they know that if the government will ban social media, right? The government will ban some social media platform.
As happened, for instance, in Nepal.
And Nepal, and also in Gezi, it was the same thing. So they were on Twitter, Twitter got banned, and then they went on Facebook, and then the Facebook to Instagram. Anyway, and now the Gen Z actually learn from that, I guess, and they are using cross-platform strategy. So they are using TikTok, they are using Discord, they are using Instagram. I mean, they are using all the platforms in order to prevent this kind of ban and censorship. In order to continue to mobilize and form a political mobilization, yeah.
Okay, so the tools have evolved.
Yeah, I mean there are multiple tools.
And how about the message? Is the message different? Because again, this started from a pragmatic social issue, which was there are not enough trees in Istanbul, which is true, to a real challenge to the power of Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it was about trees, right? I mean, the revendication, the claim was about trees, but it was also about social inequality in the city and the spaces of the city. And so there was also this socio-economical basis of the Gezi movement. And that's what we are seeing with this mobilization, with the social movements. They are coming from youth, the youth movement, who cannot access to for example, to buy a house. Now they cannot buy a house. But their parents had a different mode of ownership. And so I guess the message is not that different. It's still about precarity, it is still about poverty, and it's still about these political elites who prefer to build stadiums and not invest in public hospitals.
Let me ask you, Shelia Andremiadze, a country like Madagascar, quite typical of the African continent in that you have had a growing literacy rate over the years. You have had a growing life expectancy. You've had people move from the country to the city. How have the demands of ordinary citizens changed?
So the ordinary citizen still wants quality education, better access to healthcare. They just want corruption-free public administration. But at the same time, there was this ongoing issue of power cuts and water shortages that has been going on for years. And the André Zuel has promised so many times that it will stop, and it never stopped. So instead of just like prioritizing the water and the power cut issues, he decided to do this cable cars in Antananarivo instead, indebting the country, and at the same time, majority of Malagasy people can't even afford taking this cable car. So it was really infuriating, and I can really relate to what happened in our country, like in Morocco, when they decide to prioritize our needs instead of the basic needs of the population. Yeah.
And another common thread is, of course, a young population ruled by older elites. Morocco, a conservative society. You respect your elders. If they tell you to do something, you do it. And so the question is that changing or not?
I don't think we can connect, respecting elders to the current demands of the people. The current demands are education for all, proper healthcare, and the end of corruption in Morocco. And this movement, we are speaking about being a leaderless movement. For me, I see it, this specific movement, as a continuation of previous movements. For example, this is a continuation of the Arab Spring movement.
Yeah, because in Morocco there were protests during the Arab Spring, and there were concessions then at the time. That were made.
Yes, the constitution was then changed. That the king reduced his power, his control over the relation between the people and the government. So. Then there was the Reef movement, who was
2016.
From 2017 to 2018. That was led by Nasser Zivzafi, and currently now we have this movement. And I think the reason why it's leaderless, it's because young people have lost, they don't have trust, neither in political parties, neither in risking putting someone at the center, which will, risk arresting him, leading to other, issues, shifting, their focus on demanding education to, calling for the release of such representatives. So I think they are playing this strategically based on history. But however, I think this can also be a disadvantage, because real change, at some point, people have their daily lives. You cannot protest your whole life. And so change only can happen, in a classic, traditional way, which is parliament, and real politics.
So you need people to get involved in politics. What's the conclusion you draw when you read the news about what's going on in Madagascar? Leaderless movement at the beginning, ends with a coup.
I mean, the current sentiment in Morocco, nobody is calling for a coup. People are calling for the resignation of the current government, because due to the change of constitution, the king cannot kick the current government. He even during his just previous speech, he did not call for this, because he understands that this is between the people and the government, and if he engage in kicking them out, that will be not democratic of him.
Shelley Andriamiadze, you regret the fact that there is no charismatic young leader that emerged quickly enough, and that it's the military taking charge?
Not really, because at the very beginning, having like this charismatic leader would have been a real issue for our security. We know that the government would have arrested them, and that's why we decided that there will be no leaders for the movement. And I think it also enabled to mobilize a lot of people, because in Madagascar also, people lost trust in politicians and in political parties. So if we associated the movement to anyone, it would have been problematic at at the very beginning, and I think we would haven't succeeded to ask the Andrazuel.
Even if it was somebody from your movement who'd never been in politics before, was not a classic politician, if it was just a young person who spoke in the name of everyone?
So there were people that spoke in the name of the movement, but it was various people. It's never like one person in specifically. So I think it is okay, but at the same time, I think it's not about the leaderless movement, because even with a charismatic leader, movement can still end up in a coup. We can remember the 2009 coup in Madagascar, but there was Andrazuel who was the charismatic leader, and he was backed by the military. So I guess it's not the leader, the issue. It's about the weak institution and also the fragility of democracy in Madagascar in general.
All right, what happened last month in Nepal? There was no military coup. Instead, the fury over nepotism, a social media ban, a crackdown that forced out entrenched elites. And now you have this former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court who's acting as interim leader. Elections have been set for March the 5th of next year, legislative elections. On Monday, first day of voter registration, organizers noting a surge in young people signing up.
I'm really excited to register. This will be my first time voting.
The pillar of this new government is built on the dead bodies of students. That's why in the upcoming election, we want to uproot the so-called old faces who have been clinging to power for too long. I'm here to register for my new voter identity card for that very reason.
Gen Z have come here to register their names with a lot of excitement. They want the new generation to bring change to the country.
Young people registering to vote. Romain Ponceau, your reactions?
And that's really positive. They fought for that right to change what's happening in their countries. And
Nepal's a country where I think it's 40% of the population meets the definition of what is Gen Z.
It's massive. It's just massive, and they fought for their rights to be able to change, and they will do it in March in Nepal. So let's see what's happening, but we will have a strong interest on the conversation on social medias, because that's still the Gen Z the Gen Z way of getting information and communicating, to see how they gather together to identify their future champion.
Göksel Tuncel, here in the West, and France is a poster child for this. Young people just don't vote very much.
No, I guess the election, the voting and election, we can see it as a culture, right? For example, in Turkey, the elections are really important. Like, if you do not go to vote...
Young people vote in Turkey.
Everybody votes. Like, young people, older people, everybody should vote. So, but, in Europe, there's, of course, in the West, there's a different, a different culture of election, where young people, when they are feeling fed up with the politicians, with the elites, with the political elite, they can not vote. They can go to the streets. They can go to other mediation methods and talk about it, I guess. But this is also an election culture. For some countries, it's really important to go to vote, and for some, not that so much.
Yasser El-Aissaoui, your thoughts on this, because
voting in Morocco is a big issue. Yeah. Not a lot of young people go out to vote. Not only young people, but even older people do not vote that much. Which, like I said, it's coming from a place of the loss of trust in political parties, and especially putting their trust in negotiating in their interests, because throughout history, political parties have shown that even though they are elected, they will favor their own interests rather than the interests of the Moroccan people. And so it has become, to an extent, a tradition to not go vote. And recently, with this movement, with the Gen Z movement, there is a growing discourse around, well, this is the time to vote. If you want your government to change, it is the time to go out and vote and get political and get involved, because politics, whether you like it or not, it will, get involved in your life. So you better get out and, go for action.
What does your research show on this, Romain Ponceau? What's the trend?
About elections?
Young people. Will young people vote more or less in the future?
I cannot properly answer this question. What I can see in the conversation.
We saw recently there were primaries in New York City for mayor, and the polls got it completely wrong because all these young people came out to vote.
Yeah, it happened several times recently, and not specifically on the young population. We had some surprise in Moldova, for instance, with TikTok, or in Romania. And that's something that we see appearing.
So it's more about the social media than it is about the age of the citizen?
It's what we see on social medias. That's what's really interesting, because based on the social media, we can have a good idea of which generation it is. And we see effectively a raise in the number of discussion around the vote and the ability of changing the things through votes. Yeah, exactly.
A final word on this, Shelly Andramiadze. Again, it's uncertain days still ahead where you are in Madagascar. Do you see young people, the chance of them becoming discouraged, or, as you heard Yasser say, more civically involved?
So there is this joy of a victory, but Malagasy people need to understand that from the mistakes that happened in the past during the several popular uprising in Madagascar, they need to ensure that the transition that comes after answers all their grievances and their demands. The fight is not over, and the Malagasy people needs to understand that. And the next few days will be really important for this fight if we want, to make sure that all the reforms goes it's gonna be implemented as planned. Yeah.
Shelly Andramiadze, I want to thank you so much for joining us from Antananarivo, the capital there. I want to thank as well Yasser El Aissaoui, Gökçe Tuncel, Romain Ponceau. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate.
Thank you.